Honorable members, the assembly resumes. We continue the debate and from where we stop. I now give the floor to the member for Combo South.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Let me join my colleagues to thank the committee for the work done as assigned to them on the 26th of October, where the National Assembly had made history, the first time in the last 25 years to have an extraordinary meeting called by members of the National Assembly. And I think it's important. We have made history and we should continue to make history. Honorable Speaker, the Gambia is still at crossroads. And as I said during the extraordinary session, it is about time that Gambians take the responsibility of what had happened in this country. The death of 70 plus, and we still do not know the exact number of casualties and those who are struggling at home with their families. Honorable Speaker, this is very important and is very key in our development and governance structure that we need to take responsibility at certain stage. Honorable Speaker, as I said earlier, we also want to continue to thank members who have taken the responsibility to stand their grounds and then see that we have justice for those unfortunate incidents that had happened in this country. It's the worst since before independence, such a number of young people who had lost their lives because of negligence of duty. Honorable Speaker, I went through the report and I think it is important that we look at the issues that have been raised by the committee, but the structures are there already for the Medical Council and also for the Gambia Pharmacy Council. Honorable Speaker, going through the guidelines for import and export of medicines and related products that was produced by the Medical Control Agency of July 2020, they have clearly stipulated all the procedures that need to be followed for the importation of drugs into this country. Honorable Speaker, the Medical Control Agency also went further to have guidelines for inspectors. The report has talked about strengthening the inspectorate of the Medical Council. But there is a document that was still again produced, Honorable Speaker, by the Medical Control Agency, and this one was also dated 1st of July 2020. Honorable Speaker, all these things are done because the institutions, people who are there to take responsibilities and take the guidelines are not following the rules. And there is not of negligence. At this present time, we expect the minister and the council, and also those who are responsible for the inspectorate at the seaports to resign from their jobs and let justice prevail in this country. Honorable Speaker, unless that is not done, we will continue to waggle here and we will continue the blame game that we should not have done. Honorable Speaker, there are a lot of unanswered questions that the committee did not go further. And I think it is very important for us to be able to ask those very important questions. How were these products being imported into the country and to the seaports? I think that is very important, Honorable Speaker. Who offloaded them from any entry point where they come out? Whether they come by sea, by land, or by air, there should be somebody who did all those paperwork. Honorable Speaker, there are a lot of structures or steps that need to be taken to ensure that inspection ensure the manufacturer compliance principles, which, if not followed, is going to lead to catastrophe, and that's what happened in this case, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the death of 70 innocent children is a tragedy, and it is going to be very difficult for us to replace as a country. Honorable Speaker, where I did not see in the report of the committee whether the Medicines Control Agency and all the satellite institutions that are responsible for the monitoring of drugs coming into the country, whether this company that was mentioned, whether their stores were inspected. And I think those are some of the key things that were highlighted in all the 3 documents that I have mentioned. A mention was made about the Section 50 of the Act. Honorable Speaker, all these things are there. What we need to do as a nation is to ensure the implementation of our policies and programs. We need to detach the executive from running the affairs of these agencies when they are set up, and especially these important institutions that came into being as an act of parliament in 2014. Honorable Speaker, this act is very clear as to the principles and the way and that they are going to do. As a ministry, I think they have a lot to do, and they need to do a lot of coordination. The World Bank is not giving any free money to the country. If the World Bank is going to construct that lab, at the end of the day, we are going back again to contract loans, and that is going to increase the loan portfolio of this thing. Honorable Speaker, I think it is about time as a country, let us strengthen the institutions that we have, especially at the sub-regional level. ECOWAS Commission have very key institutions that are dealing with communication, with education, and with health. WAHU, West Africa Health Organization, is our own institution. The Gambia government is spending millions of dollars. 0.25% of tax revenue that is collected is paid to the ECOWAS Commission, and that funds all these 5 institutions of the ECOWAS Commission. I am not sure why is it that the committee did not consult WAHU for expertise advice, and also they should be able to link them up with other international agencies that WAHU is working on in Africa. They have mentioned about Ghana and Nigeria. Ghana and Nigeria are all members of the ECOWAS community, and most of the senior members of these institutions are from Ghana and Sierra Leone. So if they have contacted WAHU, they should be able to give them guidelines and help them to deal with the issues and how do we ensure that we counter counterfeit production, especially when it comes to drugs in this country. Honorable Speaker, this story is a story that is going to stay with Gambians for long, and I think we have seen what the report is saying, but people have to be responsible of their conduct. Negligence and people who do not want to take their responsibilities, we should take an action right away. So, Honorable Speaker, I have very few recommendations that I want to make. I think the Minister of Health should vacate that office and allow the Parliament to come out with our resolution, and we are going to follow this to the latter. The management of the Medical Council should be dissolved, and the Pharmacy Council should also be dissolved. And all those people who are responsible of bringing this deadly drug into the country should be prosecuted right away in the Gambia. We do not have to wait for any legal further action. Honorable Speaker, to conclude, Honorable Speaker, I want to take you back to the report of the Gambia government's white paper. If we go to section 5.3, 30 and 530, please allow me to read that section, and then I will make my recommendation as to what I want to say, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the Gambia government's white paper, section 30 says, of the Truth and Reconciliation Committee, the government accepts the recommendations of the Commission A committee was set up by the Personnel Management Office for this purpose and has completed the implementation of the recommendation. Renaming Act 22 to the Memorial Act. The government should rename Act 22 to the Memorial Act and give the National Council for Arts and Culture overall responsibility for the management and execution of this project. And 531, the government accepts the recommendation and directs that the act be renamed Never Again Memorial. The government intends to renovate the act and erect a wall which will be inscribed the names of the victims. The Gambian government notes further that the ACAC, that is the National Council for Arts and Culture, is already in charge of managing this act. Honorable Speaker, I want to come up with a recommendation that I want to suggest that the names of the 70+ children are part of the victims' names that will be at Act 22 for remembrance. And this is very important because we don't want this to go under the carpet. If the names of the victims of the former government is going to be inscribed and a wall is going to be erected, Honorable Speaker, I want to recommend that the names of these 70 people are also inscribed in that wall so that they can be remembered for life and then for posterity. Honorable Speaker, I think that's what we need to do as a country, but I will stand firm again to see that the minister has to go and we need to dissolve the council, that is the Medical Control Council, and also the Gambia Pharmaceutical Committee, and some of these things that we need to do. Honorable Speaker, finally, the report. Honorable Chairperson, I think next time when you are writing your report, it is important that you give us the acronyms so that the people will understand the names before we go along. Because acronyms tell us what those companies, there are a lot of scientific words here, and then the report is without an acronym. So I think it is very important that you list down all the acronyms and then give their scientific meaning so that when they come across the report, then people will understand them more. Honorable Speaker, on that note, I take my seat. Thank you.
Thank you, member for Combo South. I now recognize the member for Woolly East to take the floor.
Yes, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Much has been said, and I want to also thank the committee for the strenuous work they have done. Honorable Speaker, I believe the committee should take this report as a preliminary one because it is still incomplete. Looking at the mandate that they have, I believe the mandate that they have is quite huge, and it has not been completed. Because if you look at the objectives, Honorable Speaker, you will see that it says the inquiry of the Select Committee seeks to establish the causes and the impact of the AKI that killed at least 70 children in the Gambia. So they are saying, A, to establish the root causes of the reported deaths of these 70, the effects of the contaminated medical serum linked to the deaths, the impact to access primary health care services on emergency cases, especially for children, the culpability of the suspected importer and pharmacy, the culpability of the suspected importer and pharmacy linked to the contaminated drugs, the impact that availability and access to medical drugs, especially for children, has on emergency health services, the effects of the prevailing legislation, the Pharmacy Council, Medicine Council, Control Council, Agency, on the pharmacy, licensing, and medical regime of the country, to consider proposal for a review of legal and regulatory regime governing the pharmacy, medical drugs, importation and storage, and licensing administration. Is very, very wide. So, and it goes on. I'm still not done. So it's definitely very wide. And I believe that we need to consider this report, perhaps with some amendments, and allow them to continue with the work so that they'll be able to complete that and come up with a final report that will help us to actually frame our minds. Honorable Speaker, we need to have an open mind when it comes to this issue, because it's a very sensitive issue. These are human beings, 70 human beings, 70 Gambians that have perished because of this. And as the Congo South have just said, we are not sure how many people, how many Gambians have actually died because of this. We are not sure. What is known is what we are told. But what is not known, how many people have taken these drugs, they have gone to the countryside, they've died there, and the causes are not known. So it is a very serious matter, and to know the root causes of this will take some time. The Brikama note said the root cause is known, but I do not agree that the root cause is actually known. I think they've mentioned one of the causes, but the actual root cause is yet to be established. Honorable Speaker, we are dealing with a very serious matter because an announcement, an outcry is done in the Gambia that these 70 children have died, linking them to paracetamol syrup, etc., etc. And deaths occurred in other countries like Indonesia, where they've removed all the paracetamol syrup from all their stores, all the pharmacies, and some other drugs. And I know many countries are listening to this particular debate to know what the root causes are. So if we cannot tell them the root causes, it's better we tell them that we are yet to know those root causes. Honorable Speaker, if you look at the situation very critically, we've been clamoring for this central laboratory. Those who were here in the 5th legislature knew that I came with a parliamentary question asking the minister to, why we have not established a central laboratory that will test both food and medicine. Because my major concern was the Jimbo. As I said before, I watched a documentary in India where they have rejected the Jimbo from China. And it looks like the Jimbo is directed to only us here. This particular Jimbo is banned in India. Because when they tested it, they see that it is not fit for human consumption. Because they put a lot of things there, a lot of things. So we need a food laboratory. We also need a laboratory that will check the medicines as well. But it looks like in this country, you say these things and then people, it just pass. And that's why I say we are not a careful country. We are rather a careless country. Honorable Speaker, I've also raised a concern here that we need a testing lab for the chemicals that are coming to this country. The NEA has cried over and over that we need a testing lab so that all these chemicals that are coming into the country, they'll be able to test it. And they can also test medicine. But now the NEA, the chemicals, they are going to Senegal. The medicine, they are going to Senegal. Even serious tests to know, diagnosis, you have to go to Senegal or you have to go to another country. Just recently, I was telling somebody, I took my wife to South Africa. They did the testing here. They said she has sciatic something, they need to operate the spinal cord. And she refused. Luckily, when I went to South Africa and do the testing there, it was not even meant for operation. It was just physiotherapy. They would have operated her and killed her here. Many people are dying because of that. Wrong diagnosis because of lack of a testing machine. So we must take this thing very seriously. And you look at the budget, every item, they will say equipment. All the different branches, they want to buy equipment. If you put all that money together, it can give you a testing lab, which will do this testing. But at the end of the day, you go to the hospital, even the MRI test is not correct. Even X-ray. They'll have to go and wash the X-ray. 28, I don't know, that was done colonial period, they wash the X-ray. In Gambia still now, they wash the X-ray to see. You don't need to do that. But because we are careless, that's why we are like that. Honorable Speaker, like I said, the monies, even MRI test, we don't get the right one. Now, if we look at page 16, it's talking about blood samples and early quotes of the submitted drugs were taken. And then out of those drugs, they've discovered that, there are negative things there. They turn out to be negative. Now you go to page 17 as well. You will see that page 17, they tell you that tests were done in Switzerland. The Swedish labs, the Swiss labs, which showed, unacceptably high quantities of these compounds. So they are highly toxic. Now, you move again, you go to page 21. Page 21, they will tell you, the lab results of the organ functions of these children showed very high levels of creatinine, liver enzymes, and uric acid. Uric acid alone can kill a child. And children are not supposed to suffer from uric acid. It's elders, like myself. I have uric acid. That's why I'm abandoning cattle meat, because it has a lot of acid. So I abandoned that. But for children, you have high level of that because of this medicine. And that is inconsistent for children mostly under 2 years. The autopsy results of 2 of them showed multi-organ failure and fatty necrosis, explains that there was a toxin that was causing multi-organ failure. So this is what happened to our children because of the elders, we adults, our negligence. This is what is happening to our children. Now, if you look at the same page, it will tell you, despite all these tests, when they take the drugs from the pharmacies, when they pack everything, they are saying, no cases of this were submitted to the hospitals. These were there, people were buying it, and then cases are coming. But when they stop everything and seize things from different places, from all the pharmacies, the cases stopped. That's what is here. If I read it properly, that's what is here. Now, if you go to, you will also go to, that's 5. Honorable Speaker, we go to page 35. Let's do it quickly. Page 35. Page 35, it says there is urgent in under recommendations. There is urgent need for a functional national medicines quality control laboratory. The Select Committee is reliably informed by the Ministry of Health that the World Bank is funding the construction of 1 modern Q lab. Honorable Speaker, the same thing. In these last 5 years, I mentioned it here that the Indians, were very much interested in supporting the Gambia to establish that central laboratory because they know the business they are doing with the Gambia. And they are very good when it comes to establishing those labs. But because of negligence, I am told, and I raise it here, those who are here, because of negligence, the lab was not established. Not because of the Indians tried all their best, but eventually they had to leave. My information is that those who are responsible told them that you cannot get land. They could not get land to establish that. And that was the reason why the Indians gave. But the Indians were ready to support. So now we have an opportunity. Why don't we still consult and pursue that? Because we have these good relations with Indians. They established this through the South-South Cooperation. You can get a very good lab which will test all these things for you, and then your problem is solved. But every time, Senegal, Ghana, Mali, all these other places, as if you are not a sovereign state of your own. It cannot continue like that. Now, it is also mentioned here, Honorable Speaker, that when they made the medicine, the pharmacy council, they were told that the pharmacy council told them it was difficult to, it's like the Maiden pharmaceutical company would not respond to their calls. They would send emails, they would not respond to the emails. When they are importing medicines from Maiden, the communication is very good. Huh? But when there is an outcry of people dying here and they consult them, the line is dead. That's why I'm saying the root causes of this is yet to be established. And from my own information from news media, the Maiden has said that this is not their cause. They are not responsible. They are not responsible. The interesting, the paracetamol syrup, which was banned when the Indonesians had that this happened in the Gambia, they stopped the paracetamol syrup there. But that paracetamol syrup is not produced by Maiden. So there is a big speculation that only Maiden, the medicines that are here, only those medicines were bound for only the Gambia. And the interesting thing, Honorable Speaker, is that the company importing this from the Maiden did it only twice. And very recently, that is April 2022 and June 2022, they brought the first consignment. So it means that these are the two consignments that were brought. And it's relatively new. Which means this medicine they are bringing here is a very new medicine. You go to many countries, you will not see it. That's what we should be finding out. The information I got that this is bound for only the Gambia. And I'm yet to hear any story anywhere else which is going to refute that. So we must follow that. Because we want to get to the root cause of this, because 70 of our own citizens have passed away. Honorable Speaker, the recommendations. They said a functional national medicine quality control lab. Now, yes, we've passed that. There's a harmonization of pharmacy regulations with West African regions, such as Ghana and Nigeria. Ban and blacklist Maiden pharmaceuticals, products, etc., etc. So we should add, when we come to that, we should add that when we ban them, it is there. When we ban them, we should also ensure that, we follow this to the last place. And if they are culpable, we take them to the International Court of Arbitration and let them compensate the victims, adequately compensate the victims. Not for Gambia government to go and distribute $1 million among the victims. Let them fully compensate the victims. But we must establish the facts before we can do that. Because if you go to court and you don't give them, anecdotal evidence, you are wasting your time. Honorable Speaker, like I said, now they are saying the WHO is involved in this investigation. And the WHO also established what has been established in the Gambia. because WHO is also testing these medicines. And it has been proven that these medicines are faulty. So if they are faulty and they can kill people, that means that we can easily link things to say that, that pharmacy is actually culpable. And we must investigate it thoroughly, to ensure that that is established. Now, there's a WHO laboratory analysis of contaminated products involved in the Gambia. Tests ethylene glycol and diethylene glycol were found in unacceptable amounts in the samples. So it's established kind of, but not fully established. We need to follow it. Honorable Speaker, to conclude, the committee has done a good job, but my final recommendation is for us to review the Agency Act, the Control Act, and the Pharmacy Act, which is importing things. Let's review all these three and look for best practices to ensure that this type of thing does not happen to this country. And when we are doing that, we'll have the opportunity to call for all the stakeholders to come on the table, and we will deal with all the issues. Now, what they are trying to do, my suspicion, is that each is trying to exonerate itself from this. It is not done objectively. They have not been telling us the real truth that we are looking for. But if we review this, all these acts, because the information that I have been hearing and what I have seen here sometimes is different. And I don't want to follow those things because I'm not following anybody. But if you are the controller of medicines, or you are the ones controlling the licensing to the pharmacies, but you are at the same time the person who is also licensed, then there is a problem. So we need to find out all those things, and that is part of this thing, but it did not come. Who are the actual people giving licensing? Who have they given licenses to? We need to know all these things. And how are those licenses given? Because I am told that Gambians will die looking for this license, they will not get it to import. It is so difficult to have the license to import. Why? Because we have people here who can import medicine for us, and they can even distribute this medicine throughout the country. But they will look for this medicine. Sometimes they will get so tired that they go and rent a license from somebody who is not supposed to engage in pharmacy work. We must tell each other the truth, this place. Otherwise, we will not have any progress. So on that note, Honorable Speaker, that's my recommendation, that we review all the acts and put them in conformity to international standards, so that and so that we monitor them. The problem in this country is monitoring, because nothing is transparent. We must monitor them, set up institutions to monitor them, just like we are doing for the SOEs. We must set up those institutions that will be on their necks day and night to ensure that they do their job. Otherwise, we will not have any progress. On that note, I thank the committee for a very good report, and thank the Speaker for the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member for Woolly East. I now recognize the member for Banjul South to take the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to acknowledge the presence of the President's advisor, one of the President's advisors, if I'm right, and I hope that you will take these messages that we are delivering here and advise him well. I trust you to do that for us, because our country is in a crossroad. Mr. Speaker, I would thank the honorable members of the committee, but I will not say for a well-done report, because I think the report is short of what we expected. As a National Assembly, we expect a report with recommendations to be accompanied by a strong resolution. of what we expect to do as a follow-up. So I will join my honorable colleagues to say that this is not a complete report, but is work in progress. Honorable Speaker, I'm not saying you've not done a good job. I'm just saying that there is more to be done. When we look at the report, when this thing happened, I first of all looked at the act that manages medicines in this country, and I also looked at the regulations. Mr. Speaker, sorry, not honorable. Mr. Speaker, when you look at section 50 and section 49, if I may look at my tablet for the act, please, Mr. Speaker. If you look at section 49 and section 50, it takes us through, I'm just looking at the act, it takes us through the regulations and the controls. I'm just trying to find the act because I want to make sure that what I'm saying is according to the law. Okay, it might take time, but I've taken some notes. Mr. Speaker, it says, Honorable Mr. Speaker, it gives us the guidelines for registering of medicines in the Gambia. And this policy was adopted in 2017. And it gives the MCA the authority and the mandate to control and to manage. And it says that they shall. It did not say they will or they should, or it says it shall have a laboratory. And some of my honorable colleagues did mention the lack of laboratories. And looking at the report, it says that the medicines that were brought into the country went through the right process. So I doubt, how can they go through the right process if we do not have the facilities? So there shouldn't be a blame game here. We are a National Assembly here, and we've just recently concluded on the budget, and we have seen the lack of resources, the lack of facilities, the lack of equipment, yet as National Assembly members, we opted to do otherwise by raising our salaries, for example, and also increasing the budget of the President instead of looking at the needs of this country. And this was before we approved the budget in this August House. And also the minister himself sent in the budget, and I would assume that he consulted with the agencies that were under his purview, yet failed to also address things that were urgent, things that were needed. So, Mr. Speaker, my deliberation will not be long, because I would expect this to go back. I will not expect this August House to adopt this report, but I would expect it to go back. We look into it, and when it was debated here on the 26th of November, some of us recommended that it be committed to the health, as well as the committee in charge of gender and children's welfare, because this matter involves children. And I think that was the reason why the government directed the monies that were given to the victims through the gender ministry. So I think this report will be incomplete if it does not involve that committee as well. And also looking at the institutions that were visited, the gender ministry is also not a part of it. And the monies that were given to the victims were directed to the Ministry of Gender and Children's Welfare. So my deliberations will not be long. I will just recommend that we look into this matter again and make sure that we do the right thing and come up with a strong resolution. And I support the honorable members that say that we, as National Assembly members, should be a part of the process, because we are mandated to have oversight functions on these institutions to make sure that we are part and parcel of the people that will make sure that the right thing is done, and to also hold those responsible, because the mandate is to find the culprits of this, and I do not see this. I see some blame game here and there, but not actually pointing at the right direction, because first of all, the ministry is responsible, and then through the MCA, also the ministry is responsible. So rather than us pointing at the, I don't even know the name of the suppliers, because I'm not interested in them. I'm more interested in the children of my country that were brutally murdered by the lack of due process being followed in bringing medication into our beloved country. But, Mr. Speaker, I would recommend this report to go back to the two committees to have a proper look into it and come up with strong resolutions to hold people responsible. I've had some of my honorable members say that some people should resign. Yes, if it was me, I would have resigned forthwith. I wouldn't even wait for anybody to ask for my resignation, because one life is one too many, let alone 70 plus. And like Honorable for Kombo South said, we do not even know how much, because there are some people up there who might not have been to hospitals, so they might not be counted. So we have to tread with care and be cautious and walk with our conscience. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. But my recommendation is not to adopt this report, but to send it back for it to come with proper resolutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Member for BANJUL South. I now give the floor to the member for Bundung Kakunda.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor. First of all, I want to join my honorable colleagues to sympathize with the victims of the acute kidney, and at the same time to at least thank the committee who did a very good job on behalf of the Assembly, and I must recognize their effort and energy. The reason why I'm saying this, because these are committees that are mandated to do certain tasks on behalf of the Assembly. So for that being the case, if they do it, we must have to thank them for their time and energy. Basically, I know the committee comprises of different members from different angles. So, and I think with the report that they've given to us, for me, what I want to see in the report, that is the causes of the whole problem, and what we can do to address, and the recommendation. This is my area that I want to concentrate on, because when there is a problem, already there is a problem, what can we do is to find a solution to address the problem. So, because we are all here, yes. In fact, the reason why the committee is given the responsibility to take up this task, to do the investigation and come up with a report, because already we are already involved in the process. That's the National Assembly. But not all the committees can involve. But the Health Committee is given the task to do that, which I think we have to be fair to them, that they did a good job. Because sometimes there are certain utterances, we are trying to send a weak signal to the outside people who are out there, that committees are here, but they don't know how to do their job. And we need to appreciate each other, because at the end of the day, we all come from different backgrounds. On the side of health, I don't know anything about it, but if I'm in the committee, maybe the little that I know, I can contribute to add value. And recommendations are things that you can bring. Today, whatever recommendation, any report that is given to any of us here or any committee, when you bring your recommendation, I can always come and say, okay, I also have a recommendation to add. So the best thing now is, if we still need more recommendation from members, they can bring it forward to the chair of the committee so that they can, include it there and see how best we can do it. So for that being the case, I think when you go to page 26, no, page 25, what are the causes? It is already been highlighted. I don't need to read it because other members, they read it. So, and I think this will be an opportunity for the Minister of Health to, at least try to fix their, ministry so that some of the gaps that they have, they can try to fix it. Because this is not only in the Gambia, but it has happened to other countries where they use this as an opportunity to able to, address most of the gaps that they have in their health sector. So, as a matter of fact, we still need to work very hard as a ministry, as a country, to, at least try to mitigate some of these things. Because, yes, we will not say, okay, the ministry, they did, because we don't expect such a thing to happen, because this is about life, and nobody would love your citizen to die like that, which we condemn. Myself, I condemn it. But now it has happened. What is the solution? So that solution is our responsibility to come up together to see how best we can do it, regardless of where we belong to or so. Because at the end of the day, this is not about a section of a society. It's about health. It can, affect any of us here, including our own family. So for that being the case, I think the committee, some of the recommendations that you make, when you come to page, what we can do to address, what can be done to prevent further reoccurrence. The answer is appearance of contaminated product in the market can only be prevented in manufacture. Follow GMP procedures. So constant post-marketing surveillance in the answer. Monitoring of products in use should be enhanced. Unfortunately, this will be difficult for the Gambia with the current capacity of high deficient human resource coupled with absence of a quality control laboratory. So already we know the problem. Why? Because we don't have the laboratory facility. So the ministry should now work on that to ensure that we have that. So on the side of this WHO or World Bank supporting, in this world right now, you must collaborate and partner if you want to succeed. As members, we are partnering together to develop our various constituencies. So to say, okay, you cannot rely on somebody, you must rely, because the thing is, if you don't have the capacity, you don't have the finance, you must collaborate so that you can achieve your goal. For me, as far as partnership and collaboration is, I always go in for that so that I can achieve my goal. But when I am doing it, I have to factor so many things so that it will not affect me. So, but that one is left to us for us to be able to think and see how best we go about it. So on the side of the recommendations, Mr. Honorable Speaker, page 38. The government should pursue legal action against Maiden Pharmaceutical for exporting contaminated drug to the Gambia with the Atlantic brand. I think this one also is very important, both sides, because we don't know the business that transpired, because the importer, is the buyer and the manufacturer. We don't know what transpired, so we need to, factor that, even if it is going to be positive, because according to the report, the communication is no more happening, to the manufacturer. So for that being the case, I don't know how we can establish that relationship, but something has to be done with that. Number 11, Ministry of Health to revive the primary health care system for early detection of medical cases for more effective and efficient health care delivery. Because this is very important. We are talking about this ACIC, but actually, holistically, the health sector need to be, at least so that, at least each and every one of us can have good health service delivery. So this is going to be an opportunity for us to fix our health sector. So how can we do this? Is commitment and sincerity. Yes, this health sector, we have our own brothers and sisters who are there. We've given you the mandate and the trust for you to work for the country. So, we expect each and every one of them to at least work with sincerity and dedication. Because at the end of the day, whatever happens is your own people that we are serving. So for us, we will be held accountable because everything comes to us that the MPs are not doing anything or whatever. But we are doing our part. The reason why we are doing because already today, the report is here, we are all debating on the report so that we can find a common solution. So now the solution here is, let's try and go by the recommendation. If we have any other extra recommendation, we can, at least add it, adjust it, so that we can, at least be in the same wavelength. Because the thing is, I don't want us to start a precedent where a committee will report, you are not part of the committee, you just want to see the report as it's not important, which is, I don't think is very normal. So, but the thing is now, because whatever report you bring, even if you are given the responsibility, you can just make your report, but others can also have some additional adjustment that they feel it can be. So the important thing here is let's try and consolidate the various points that we have, then we can have a better report, inshallah. So on that note, I want to thank the committee once again for the good job, and I am appealing to the Assembly, let's consider the report, and also not only consider, but the Health Committee to follow up in terms of monitoring the whole process, because this is not about considering and adopting the report and you leave it like that. We have to monitor them to see that at least the Assembly is on the process of monitoring the whole process. So on that note, I submit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, member for Bundung Kakunda. I now give the floor to nominated member Kebalang Fofana.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, to start with, I would join my fellow honorable colleagues in extending our appreciation to the Health Committee for really embarking on an exercise which they were mandated by this very August Assembly on the 26th of October 2022. A mandate that was born out of a resolution, and a resolution that was passed by this very August Assembly. And Honorable Speaker, I wouldn't do justice if I do not reiterate our heartfelt condolences again to the bereaved families. We are talking about the demise of 70+ children, or let me say 70 children. Wherever that happens in the world, it's a national tragedy. And to the families, we are telling them that we stand with them. To the families, we are telling them that this entire country is behind them. And we'll make sure that justice is not only seen to be done in this case, but that justice is achieved. Honorable Speaker, before moving further, let us remind ourselves as to what the Health Committee was mandated to do. If you look at page, let me say paragraph 6 of the health report, which should be on page 11, and you look at the objectives. The first mandate of the Health Committee was to look at the causes of the acute. They were also mandated to look at the culpabilities of the importers and look at the effectiveness of what? The legislation. This, among a host of other issues, were the basis for the resolution itself. Today we've received the report. And to do justice to the report, we must evaluate it based on its performance with regards to the task it was really mandated to do. And on that note, I would refer this August Assembly, Honorable Speaker, to page 25. Page 25, it says, what caused the problem? If you look at paragraph 64, Honorable Speaker, the answer there, it states that it is a quality assurance failure on the part of the manufacturer. Which means what page 65 is telling us is that the real cause of the Aki was as a result of the contaminated syrups which were manufactured by Made in Pharmaceuticals, imported to the country by Atlantic Pharmaceuticals, consumed by our innocent children who drank it and eventually succumbed. This is what paragraph 64 is telling us. Paragraph 65 is telling us that the Comye here, I assume, it means Atlantic Pharmaceuticals. If I'm wrong, members of the Health Committee can correct me. It says the company that imported the product from Made in Pharmaceuticals is duly registered. And what this paragraph is trying to tell us is that Atlantic Pharmaceuticals have complied with all the rules and regulations as it is obtained by the MCA Act governing medicines and medically related products into the country with regards to their importation and distribution. Honorable Speaker, I will move to paragraph 66 before doing my analysis. Paragraph 66 is telling us that damage could have been minimized if a robust pharmacovigilance unit existed at MCA. But it further continues to say that the unit exists, but it is severely limited by what capacity? So, Honorable Speaker, we are hearing two languages. I don't want to see it as a conflict, but I would conclude to say that there are inefficiencies in the system. But what am I trying to say here? Everything is being attributed to Made in Pharmaceuticals. We are saying MCA have acted duly with regards to the regulations. We are saying that Atlantic pharmacists have done what they are supposed to do. So then, as a country, where did we go wrong? This is what we need to ask ourselves. Where did we go wrong? Because the people we are pointing fingers at are external factors. We have no control over them. But here, as a people, where did we go wrong? And I will tell you, it's in our regulations. Because if at all the regulations were progressive, Atlantic Pharmaceuticals would have been held responsible. They should be duty bound for importing and distributing contaminated drugs in our country. But how comes you are telling us that they have complied with the laws and imported contaminated syrups into our country, which resulted in fatalities, and still now they cannot be found wanting? Then, how is the law serving us as a people? Where are the punitive measures in the law? Where are the checks and balances? Where are the controls? We need to look at this holistically. And by virtue of this report, yes, many honorable members have pointed fingers to ministries. I side with you. But I would point my finger to this assembly because this law was passed in this assembly in 2014. The National Assembly is the one who legislates laws in this country. What happened? And this is not the first law. In 2014 also, the GPPA Act that we amended in 2022 was legislated in this very house in 2014. And when we review it this year, we realize it was not fit for purpose. But, Honorable Speaker, it will only be convenient to point all the accusing fingers at Made in Pharmaceuticals. If you look at the MCA regulations, there are whole sections about importers of drugs and what they are mandated to do. And the law is very clear as to what should be done if at all an importer is found wanting on the importation of what? Contaminated drugs. And again, Honorable Speaker, when they say that Made in Pharmacy have done everything that they need to do during the importation, I will be right to say it means that they have what? Provided a certificate of analysis. Can we have an interpretation, a medical interpretation as to what should be the purpose of a certificate of analysis? For us to know where the burden of responsibility lies. Of course, we know Gambia doesn't have a laboratory, but the only way that MCA will allow any importer to bring drugs into this country is when you present a certificate of analysis, which means a certificate of analysis is out there to prove beyond reasonable doubt that what? Those drugs are in compliance with what? International standards. Honorable Speaker, if at all a certificate of analysis was presented, and based on the provision of that certificate of analysis, that's where MCA premised their decision to allow the importation, clearance, and distribution of those drugs. Today, we need nobody to tell us that that certificate of analysis was what? Falsified. Now, who bears the responsibility for that? Who bears the responsibility? Do we still say Made in Pharmaceuticals? It's a question. Answer it with any side of the coin. But if you ask me, I will not exonerate the importer who brings it here. Where does our law stand in making sure that the wholesalers and importers of the drugs perform their due diligence with regards to the companies where they are importing those drugs? They should be duty bound. It is their responsibility. It's not only about making profit. We are talking about 70 kids. It could have been my child. It could have been yours. It could have been myself. It could have been you. This is serious. This is not about the government. This is a perennial problem. We are just seeing the results today. Do we have to wait for another one to come for us to be proactive? Honorable Speaker, before moving from this point, what I would encourage this August Assembly to do is look at the recommendations that our able Select Committee on Health have provided on these salient points and see how best do we strengthen them. They have done a great job and they've performed it objectively. No report is conclusive. The main reason we mandated them to go and do the job and report back to us is to take ownership of the report. If we throw this report out, we are not throwing the report of the Health Committee. We are throwing our own report. And we are duty bound to strengthen it. Let's look at it objectively. Analyze it rationally. Improve on the areas we believe they need to be tightened. And do justice to the current situation that we are faced with. Honorable Speaker, at this point, I would refer the Honorable House to page 11, paragraph 11. Page 11, paragraph 11, I will just refer the House there to underscore some of the salient points that I have what? Noted. If you look at paragraph 11 and 12, they are telling us that the products were received or allowed to be imported into the country upon the presentation of what? Certificates of analysis. So, Honorable Chairperson of the Select Committee, in your response to the members, I would definitely appreciate it if you can deliberate on that point. What is the basis or the rationale behind requesting for a certificate of analysis, so as to help us better comprehend whether the MCA can rely on the certificate of analysis alone in order to safeguard the lives of what? Ordinary Gambians, including myself. And Honorable Speaker, if you look at paragraph 13, paragraph 13, you should be on page 12, says the NCA informed the Select Committee that the Gambia has no quality control laboratory facility for testing of medicines and related what? Products. I think this was part of the regulation. If it is part of the regulation, which means it is part of the cycle to certify products before they are released into the market, we have a role to play here as National Assembly members. It is part of our what? Oversight responsibilities to make sure that once laws are passed, we look at their actual implementation. I've said it here before, and I wouldn't shy away from it. We can conveniently point fingers to ministries, departments, and agencies and leave ourselves out of the cycle. But will it change anything? Never. We are part and parcel of the problem. Let's ask ourselves, how many times have we really conducted or scrutinized the implementations of the laws and regulations we pass in this house? We never did. And laws are passed to make sure that society lives harmoniously. But we do not scrutinize them. We are not even bothered with their implementation. That's why at the end of the day, when problems happen, we become reactive. We become emotional. And that won't solve it. That won't solve it. I think, Mr. Speaker, for that one, I would urge this Honorable House to take up that oversight responsibility and perform it diligently. Our role is not only to make laws, but our role is to follow those laws through the cycle of what? Implementation, to make sure that they serve the very purpose for which they were what? Passed. If we do not do it, we are not better than the people who do not implement it to the latter. Honorable Speaker, at this point, I would refer the Honorable House to page 15, paragraph 28. And with your permission, I will read. I will start from the second sentence, where it says, out of the 66 patients who were admitted for AKI, 63 died, 2 survived, while 1 was discharged against medical advice. The 2 who survived had taken only 1 dose of those contaminated drugs, developed urinaria, and were quickly brought to the hospital, following which appropriate treatment was instituted. The death rate is heartbreaking, over 95%, which means Aki is deadly in children, which means whatever the causes are, we should not relent in getting enough evidence so that we can become proactive and make informed decisions. The Select Committee produced this report out of the mandate that was given to them by the National Assembly. If we do not agree with the report today, what alternative solutions do we have? None. None. We can easily say, sack the minister. That's easy. I'll be applauded. Is it solving the problem? This is not a morality test. It's a test of life or death. It's a test of reality. If you look at the report, the ministry have provided you with some of the steps they have taken, from the notice ban to the recall of what? The medications. And the report is clearly telling you that that helped in curbing the spread of acne and reduce the infection rate. Like it or not, that was a proactive move. And it helped in reducing the number of acne cases. And at ministerial level, that's what the minister can do. Who is responsible for the regulation? It's MCA. Who is morally obligated to make sure that they bring fit for use medicines into this country. It is the importer, doesn't the businessman. I can say sack the minister. But is the evidence saying sack the minister? No. To be rational and objective, I would advocate that we follow the evidence trail, we follow the evidence line, and then objectively do justice to this report. Because a recurrence of what happened should not be entertained. Any one of us can fall victim. We are all victims. This country is closely knitted. On the 26th of October, when the motion was brought on the floor, one of our very own parliamentarians did say here that her daughter was infected. It could be mine. So I would appeal again. Let us make sure we eliminate emotions from our deliberations and be objective in whatever submissions that we would be doing. Honorable Speaker, at this point, I will refer the Honorable House to page 35 of the report, where some recommendations were done about made in pharmaceuticals. And when I say page 35, I mean paragraph 157. And with your permission, Honorable Speaker, I will read. It says, findings reveal that all importers of pharmaceutical products, wholesale and retail into the Gambia are following MCA regulations. Notwithstanding, they encounter difficulties within MCA operational shortcomings. The MCA is confronted with inadequate human and institutional resources. Honorable Speaker, we should note three things here. One, it says all the importers and distributors are following MCA regulations. And two, these importers and distributors are faced with what? Shortcomings in MCA. And thirdly, all these shortcomings have been compounded into two. One, inadequate human and institutional resources. But Honorable Speaker, I will go back to the initial question I asked. If all the importers and distributors are following MCA regulations, Atlantic Pharmaceuticals in particular, then why did we fall victim to this unfortunate situation? Why did we fall victim to it? Is it only about the loss? Or there are other contributing factors that we didn't know? And at this point also, it would have been highly welcomed if at all the health committee would have explicitly told us what those operational shortcomings are. What are the operational shortcomings that MCA is challenged with? So that as a parliament, we can help in what? Improving their operational efficiency. Previous speakers have said it, that if you listen to the grapevines outside, they will tell you some of the shortcomings MCA is confronted with is they are conflicted. That they are the very people who are the license holders, they are the very people who rent those licenses to the importers, and they are the very people who should go out there as well and monitor those license holders. That in itself is a shortcoming. And if that is what you are referring to, that is a very severe one. Because they cannot be objective in their supervisory roles. They cannot be objective in their monitoring roles. And again, that is how it is obtained in the law. That is what the law is saying. In as much as the law doesn't give us too much ground to hold them accountable, but morally, they should be obliged to do what is right. If you know that being a license holder would conflict you from supervising the person you rent your license to, that time they have redefined it to a partnership. I would say to the person you are in partnership with, then you should desist from what? Issuing your license. But Honorable Speaker, this is the main problem we are faced with. So part of the recommendations that the Health Committee have brought forward, which is very progressive, is a complete overhaul of the MCA Act and the regulations. And I would urge this Honorable House, when that bill comes to this floor, let us take our time and let us make sure that we do justice to it. So that the fourth legislature that passed the bill in 2014, the mistakes they made, we can correct them. Honorable Speaker, at this point, I would now shift to the recommendations. And if you look at the recommendations of the Health Committee, we should be at page 6. Paragraph 1 is recommending for the establishment of a laboratory. I think this is the most important one there. Besides the complete overhaul of the MCA Act and their regulations, coming up with the laboratory is the most ideal one. Since that point have really been deliberated on by many members, I wouldn't definitely spend much time on it. If you look at paragraph 2, in paragraph 2, I just want some clarification with regards to a particular terminology from the Health Committee. It says the Select Committee stressed the need for an urgent establishment of a functional pharmacovigilance unit at the MCA. I really want to support this idea, but I don't know what PV stands for. So if you can help this Honorable House during your intervention, for you to break it down for us into simple, understandable terms so that we'll be at the same wavelength. Honorable Speaker, if you look at paragraph 5, paragraph 5 is saying the Select Committee recommends for MCA to blacklist made-in pharmaceutical products and ban all their products in the Gambian market. The question that comes to my mind is, what role did Atlantic Pharmaceuticals play? I want to be sure. I want my mind to be clear. Why made-in? Made-in didn't bring these products to the Gambia. In as much as the report is telling us that Atlantic have followed all the rules, have they performed some due diligence? Is it not also their responsibility to do a background check from the farms that or companies that they'll be importing medical products from? Don't they have a responsibility on the drugs that they are distributing in this country? What is the law saying about that? If that point can be cleared by the chairman of the Health Committee, it will further enhance our understanding and help us to make informed decisions as to how best we can strengthen that particular recommendation. And Honorable Speaker, I would move to paragraph 7 in page 38. Paragraph 7 of the recommendations. It says, government to strengthen MCA's capacity with the needed financial aid. I'm underlining financial aid, infrastructure and human resources for more effective and efficient implementation of its regulatory functions. Yes, we know that all institutions in this country are constrained when it comes to resources. But when it comes to the MCA, and with the volume of evidence out there, and looking at how they are operating, I think the issue of, I don't know how to phrase this for a lack of better word, but their conflict is what we should address first. They cannot be the judge and the jury. They must have clear, defined responsibilities. The financial aid can come first, but let us regularize the institution and make sure it is fit for purpose. Because if at all the report is telling us that Atlantic Pharmaceuticals followed all the rules that were laid down by MCA, and still we cannot save the life of innocent citizens, children for that matter, then MCA is not doing its mandate. So my belief is this: before giving them financial aid, let's make sure that they have the tools to perform their functions. And that should be on the regulation. And that is our responsibility. Before taxing the government to do anything, let us do our job first. Make sure that they have the legal framework with clear punitive actions and guidelines to operate for your safety, that of your family, and mine. Honorable Speaker, and at this point, I would just like to fast track to page 39. Let's look at paragraph 15. Paragraph 15 says, because the cost of medicines in the Gambia is high, partly due to the testing and importation payments levied on importers, MCA should consider a reduction in the cost of medicines for the public by collecting payments for registration and listing in Dalasi. And listing in Dalasi. That one caught my attention. The legal tender in this country is Dalasi. And when I read this recommendation, I went through the report. And in the report, what is obtained there is the MCA charges between $1,000 to $1,400. MCA is charging in dollars. When the Central Bank of the Gambia issued a statement that the legal tender of this country is Dalasi, they should not consider, they should abide by the law. We must tell them to make sure that their actions are lawful. There is no consideration in that. Charging importers to pay in dollar is unlawful. We don't trade in dollars in this country. We trade in dollars. So if we can tell the private sector to regularize their operations and make sure they don't charge their clients in dollars, we must equally be in a position to tell government ministries, departments, and agencies that the only legal tender they can charge in this country is dollars. So I would urge this August Assembly to really look at that recommendation. And instead of telling MCA to consider listing in dollars, to tell them that let them charge and make sure their charges are in accordance with the legal tender of this country. And Honorable Speaker, at this point, I will just fast track and then conclude. And in conclusion, I just have 4 recommendations. The first recommendation is already obtained in the report, and as it is clearly stated by the Health Committee, that is a review of the MCA Act. I think that recommendation should be given the highest priority. Let us make sure that we have progressive laws. Let us make sure that we have laws that will respond to emerging challenges. And let us make sure that if these laws are also enacted, we follow suit during their implementation so that they can serve their purpose. So I believe that recommendation of the Health Committee should be given the utmost priority. And my second recommendation is to adopt this report and strengthen it. Let's strengthen the report. Let's follow the recommendations, paragraph by paragraph. Objectively, allow the Health Committee to lead us, because they are the ones who are having the evidence right now. They have done a thorough and extensive work. If you look at this report and you look at the institutions they have met, both in the public and private sector, you will realize that the work was not easy. However, if at all we believe that certain recommendations are there, should be crafted in another way so that we can achieve the objective of the resolution which we passed on the 26th of October, let's strengthen the recommendations. And the final one would be, the Parliament have a responsibility. Do you want to substitute and become the implementing organ of the government? I've listened and listened keenly. And I think on repetitive basis, it has been lamented by members that we cannot leave this in the hand of government alone. We are not leaving anything in the hands of government. Government will do what they have to do, and as a parliament, we concentrate on our oversight role. If you want to be conflicted, perform the function of government, then during your oversight, the lapses will be used to hang you. And we will send this country then to an early grave. Let us not be guided by emotions or play to the gallery. We have a role to play, and our role differs from that of the government. Why did we set up a committee? It's to perform oversight, come with recommendations to us. Once these recommendations are done, we ensure that the government implements them, and we perform our oversight functions to ensure that they are implemented to the fullest. Now you want to be part of the implementation and come back and do the oversight. I wonder how we'll be able to do the oversight. So I would advocate that we definitely align our actions to the true principles of democracy and know that we can only be an effective parliament if we are effective in our oversight responsibilities. On that note, Honorable Speaker, I beg to take my seat.
Thank you, nominated member Kebalang Fofana. I will now recognize the member for Nyamina West.
Okay, thank you very much, Speaker. Well, I wish I came before Keba because he has touched most of my points, but all the same, I also join my colleagues to say a big thank to the committee and the chair for tabling the report. Definitely, their mandate is huge, as lamented by Toure, Woolley West, but also the duration given also was very minimal. So I have to commend them for a job well done. I have just some issues to clarify, and I think I'll put them forward for the chair to help me. That's page 11, paragraph 12, where it says, Speaker, please allow me. Also, the imported products were inspected upon arrival, and everything was satisfactory. Okay, who inspected these materials? And after the inspection, it was with a certificate of analyst. Were you able to access this certificate? If so, please, can you present it to the members? And also, all the certificates, including that of the producers, are of good quality and fit for use. Now, it was successfully delivered with a certificate of analyst, and it was fit for use. Within short period of time, it was taken away for testing. Where does the problem lies? Is it during storage? Who tampered with it? These are questions we need to know, because it was received satisfactory. And then the certificate accompanied that is good products and fit for purpose. But then after a while, it was tested in Ghana and New Zealand, Switzerland, a problem was found. So within this short duration, my question is that where was it, who handled it from the airport? And it was stored where? And was it tampered with? These are important questions that are bothering my mind. You also look at paragraph 51, that's page 20. It says, the following clinical findings shows that poisoning led to the cause of acute kidney injury. And then it followed 1, 2, and so on and so forth. But these key words here are very important. Clinical findings. That's why someone told you here, please make explanation to some of these terms. What do you mean by this? Because clinical findings here, to a layman, is enough for what you are saying, that there was no technology evidence or scientific evidence. So what do you mean by these clinical findings? And in our society, once we mention that it shows that poisoning led to the, so this poisoning also is not a small word to us. You may come further to explain to us, what do you mean here by poisoning? Is it the normal poisoning when we say that your food is being poisoned? This is very important. Let's go to page 25. Page 25, where it says, someone said here, how can you recommend for the made-in products not to be common? The answer is here. It is a quality assurance. It is a quality assurance failure on the part of the manufacturer. And who was the manufacturer? Quality assurance failure. And it further says that the local, it says all the raw materials for production on arrival in a factory are quarantined. Where are they? And what are these raw materials in India that were used to manufacture this? Do we know? So in that essence, someone made also of chemicals coming into our country. In essence, to my own thinking is that we have a lot to do. In essence, we can use other products. We also have these raw materials here. Can't we call the Indians to come and bring over their factory, test our raw materials? This is the thinking that we should have by now. But bringing in chemicals that we have no control of. Okay, you also made mention that the company that imported the products from made-in pharmacies in India is duly registered. Documentation, that is the import permit, clearance, and do you have access to these documents? If so, please, we would want to see them. Because someone made here, it can even be a fabricated document. Page 36, paragraph 160 on the recommendations. Yes, paragraph 160, 13 recommendation, you have, okay, just, that's talking about the laboratory. That comes now to our responsibility as NAMS. Someone have mentioned it here. We are also a part. We cannot go out of this. The nominated member has said it here. There are many regulations that need to be looked at. And also, when it comes to allocation of the national cake, we can do a lot. We can tell the ministry to put a budget line for a laboratory. it is a priority, then we can put in money. We have the centralized fund there. We can recommend for monies to go in for that lab. So those things are our responsibility. And many other things. So we cannot be out of this. Look at, let's go to the conclusion on page 35, 154, paragraph 154. I'm interested there where it states the actual cause of the death of these children is still under scientific investigation, as casualty tests are currently being undertaken by the Ministry of Health and partners. So, but initially you said the select committee concludes that all the cases of AKI are linked to the consumption of the contaminated medical products. It is already contaminated. And we will not have love it to be contaminated. Where is it contaminated? So, okay, coming back to now to the scientific proof and evidence that you want to show, you said you are on this, it still said, still under scientific investigations, as casualty tests are currently being undertaken by the Ministry of Health and partners. Okay, my question there is how, when, and where? So where will you classify the clinical results? The clinical result is a what? Please, give me this, when, where, and how. Thank you.
Thank you very much, member for Nyamina West. I now give the floor to the member for Upper Fuladu West.
Thank you so very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity, at least to also shed some light pertaining to the subject matter at hand, like concerning about this report. Well, I know it was very, very unfortunate when this incident happened. The whole country mourned the death of those 70 children, especially the Minister of Health and the government by extension, were in a somber mood when this happened. But notwithstanding, a resolution was passed in this August Assembly, that is to tax the Health Committee in order to make findings in relation to this AKI. So what I just want to elaborate, I just want to make a few statements concerning about these findings. Like previous speakers, they have highlighted so many things that have been captured in the report. But like if you go to the report, whereby the report is telling you that like out of 9 samples sent to Ghana, 8 samples had proline glycol, and 2 samples contain ethylene glycol, and 2 samples contain diethylene glycol. So this is telling you, basically, I know some of the members were asking the cause. Like in health terminology, for example, like if you are talking about death, maybe the cause of death may have 2 categories. You can have primary cause of death, you can also have secondary cause of death. So if you go through this report, you will come to realize that the primary cause of death is highlighted in this report. That is attributed to the drugs which was consumed by those children. So basically, one can draw a conclusion that after consuming that drug, at least 98% or 99.5% of the cases is attributed to drug. So, but if you look at the scientific point of view, you cannot draw that conclusion by saying 100% is attributed to drug. So that is why in the report, you will come to realize that scientifically, it is not concluded by saying that the drug is exactly the one related to the death of those 70 children. But notwithstanding, I think the health committee We have done our best, and then we have done to the best of our abilities, because these children who died as a result of this AKI are our own children, because as previous speakers highlighted, that some of these children could be ministers, could be National Assembly members, could be directors. But because of the trust and the confidence that this assembly have on this health committee, that was why you people have tasked us to carry out these findings. And we have done our best. And then if you go through the reports, you will come to realize that we have engaged a lot of stakeholders and also the importers. Like the importer in question, as far as this report is concerned, that is the Atlantic Pharmacy. Now, you will come to realize that if you go through the reports, the Atlantic Pharmacy have followed all protocols, like that is enshrined in the MCA Act. They have followed all due process. So obviously, one can say where the problem lies actually is from the manufacturing industry, that is the Maiden Pharmaceutical Company, according to the report. So like for me, what I believe as a country, or what I believe as a citizen of this country, we all love this country, and we don't want to see any child dying as a result of medication. So, because if one child died, it's a big setback for the whole nation. So, but if we want to bring an end to all these hulabalus happening, I think basically we have to take the bull by the horn. If you go through the recommendation, I think recommendation, is it the first, whereby it says, based on the finding of the Select Committee investigation on the issue of the acute kidney injury among children, the following recommendations are submitted for due consideration by this August Assembly. Okay, there is urgent need for a functional national medicines quality control laboratory. I think this is very, very, very paramount. The reason why it's paramount, I want to explain to this assembly so that they can understand why MCA, before how they were operating. Like if you bring your product to the country, like for them, what they rely on is the COA, that is the certificate of analysis. For example, any drugs that comes to the country has to come with a certificate of analysis before it is clear at the port. So this certificate of analysis will serve as a guide, will serve as a benchmark to know all those products. For example, if the importer imported 30 different types of products, for example, now this certificate of analysis will tell you, like paracetamol, if you look at paracetamol, all the ingredients contained in that paracetamol will be specified in the document. So now, for example, if we have a functional lab in this country, now what we will do, we will just take a sample of this paracetamol and take it to the lab. We check. For example, if I told that the product, like paracetamol product, the ingredient might be this ingredient A, let's say is 80%, ingredient B is 60%. So from there, when you test it at the lab, then that's the time you can make comparison. So if you make comparison, that will tell you exactly what is on this certificate of analysis is exactly what is in this product. So it's unfortunate that we as a country or as a nation, we don't have lab. So I think the most important thing here is government through Ministry of Health should try to establish this lab as quickly as possible. But according to the minister, what he said, that with the help of WHO by mid-2023, that is June 2023, yeah, by World Bank, by 2023, the lab will be fully established. So this is what we all hope and pray that the lab is built before 2023 July. So basically, I think for me, this is the most important thing. As a country, we should have our own testing lab. Not only lab for drug testing, even food. Every day, the food that we are consuming, do we know whether the foods that we are consuming, whether it's fit for consumption? How many chickens are entering in this country and they are following due processes? Do we know whether those chickens are fit for consumption? So basically, I think this is one of the most fundamental things that we should concentrate as a nation. And also, the MCA also, they have a role to play. Like, according to one of the speakers have just highlighted that they are the regulating body. I think what I will urge them, they should not, leave any stone unturned. What their work call for, let them make sure that they work to expectation. And they feel, and if they feel like they cannot operate in the absence of this or that, I think it's open for them. I think it is their right for them to come, at least, and then face the right authorities, whereby we make sure that, so many things are put in place. Because if you go to MCA, you will come to realize that even personnels, they find it very difficult. And then some of the speakers, I don't know which honorable member also mentioned that, like the importers, where this manufacturing, where they manufacture these drugs, the importers should go and check those places how they manufacture these drugs. Yes, they can do that. But in the MCA Act, it is the responsibility of the MCA to do that. So that is why it is incorporated in our recommendation that they have to go there and see how these things, how they make these drugs. Or if they cannot do that, let them use our embassies or our high commissioners in that particular country. So basically, I think if we do that, maybe such things will be averted. Well, for me, as far as this report is concerned, I think the Health Committee, we have done our utmost best, and I urge honorable members, like, we are human beings, and as the saying goes, no man is infallible. Remember, it's only God who is perfect. You have given us the tax, and after doing our findings, this is our report. We know this report is not 100%. Even ourselves, we know that it's not 100%. But the reason we are here is for us, all of us, to come together, share ideas. What you feel is left in the report, we can incorporate it. So I think that's my take, Honorable Speaker. I thank each and every one of you for taking your time, contributing to the debate. Thank you so much.
Thank you, member for Upper Fuladu West. I now give the floor to the member for Sandu.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'll take this opportunity to thank the Health Committee for coming out with this report. It's not easy, but they've done their best. And to the chairman, I thank members of the committee. And I would also like to take this opportunity to pay my condolence to the bereaved families who lost their loved ones, to the AKI. It's not easy to lose a family member. It's not easy to lose a loved one. We want to say that we are with you during this painful moment of your life, and we will stand by you through the journey. On that note, I want to look through the report, and before I go to the report, I've seen a news bulletin just some 4 days ago on the BBC.
Honorable Member for Sandu, can you please take your seat? Please. Yes, Honorable Member for Brikama South.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want to move a motion for us to sit beyond 6 o'clock to finish business.
Any second? Member for Opanyomi.
Honorable Speaker, thank you. I second the motion.
Thank you. Honorable Member, you may proceed.
Thank you. I want to...
Honorable Member, please.
Okay, thank you.
It has been moved and seconded that we sit beyond 6 to finish business. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it. Honorable Member, you may proceed.
Yeah, thank you very much. I was saying I came across a news bulletin on the BBC regarding Gambia's acute deaths. It reads, and I quote, WHO stands by dangerous India cough syrup claim. And it reads, the WHO has said it stands by its action after India said that 4 cough syrups linked to child deaths in the Gambia complied with specifications when tested at home.
Honorable Speaker, Honorable the member is quoting a newspaper, so he should take the permission of the Speaker to do that quotation.
Yes, Speaker, I think member for Willie was sleeping.
Honorable Member for Sandu, please proceed.
Thank you. When I came across this and the report yesterday is calling on government to pursue legal action against Made-in Pharmaceuticals for exporting contaminated drugs to the Gambia, with the Atlantic brand name. I see a contradicting statement from the Indian authorities. And the Gambia and the WHO has certified these drugs as contaminated drugs. And the report from India is telling us these drugs, when tested at home, certified all specifications. And at this juncture, what I want to put is for Gambia government to pursue all legal avenues to make sure
Yeah, I think you need to caution Willie. He's disturbing us. We are not understanding, huh? Willie is really disturbing.
I'm not communicating to anybody. This man is just murmuring to me.
Honorable Member, please proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want to put it to Gambia government to pursue without fault all legal avenues to make sure justice is served through international courts for arbitration. And all the victims of the accident be compensated, or their families be compensated with the right remuneration that they deserve. And looking at page, page 11. Page 11. It says the Select Committee was also informed by MCA that they approved the import clearance permit for Atlantic Pharmacy, which contained the suspected 4 syrups on the 17th June 2022. For me, I think if you are going to call for culpability, it should not be limited to only made in pharmaceuticals. It should include MCA and all the governments that have passed since 1965 to date. Yeah, definitely, I stand by that. Yeah, because a country like the Gambia, you cannot imagine, since 1965 we are without a machine that can test our drugs and foods that we consume. It's unbelievable. $7 million we're calling for, $7 million under $500 million. We can do it. We can do it. So the culpability lies from the made in pharmaceuticals to MCA to Atlantic Pharmacy to all the governments that passed from 1965 to date. That's my stand. Yeah. And if you go to page 8, it says how the pharmacy license schemes, that is paragraph H, how the pharmacy license schemes is administered. It is unbelievable. You cannot be a player and a referee at the same time. The culpability of MCA cannot be overemphasized. The same players are the referees. Those working at the helm of MCA are the ones giving out their licenses to these pharmacies for imports of drugs in our country. So the culpability lies with them. And this needs to change forthwith. And thank God I think it's one of the recommendations of the Health Committee. And it needs to change from now on. And you have the page 25. On page 25, it says damage could have been minimized if a robust pharmacovigilance unit existed at the MCA. And that goes, that still holds MCA and all the governments that have passed culpable of this negligence. I call it negligence. This should not be tolerated again in our history of this country. This can happen to any one of us. This can happen to any one of us. Go to our hospitals. Everybody is sick. If you go there, you think there's no healthy person in this country. It has something to do with the drugs and the foods that we consume. So thank God that government is now coming up with a testing lab through the help of World Bank in June 2023 as promised. So before I take my seat, this is going to be a short one, I'll urge the parliamentarians, members of this August Assembly, to adopt the report with strong resolutions. I take my seat. Thank you.
Thank you very much with that strong recommendation. I'm not sure if the member for Woolly East and Combo South, whether they were members of Moja, maybe they will also call for inclusion of our colonial masters, not only from 1965 to date. Thank you.
I've never been a member of Moja.
Thank you very much, member for Sandu. I now give the floor to the member for Talinding Kunjang.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want to first and foremost thank all the previous speakers who have taken time to deliberate on the report and the findings, the conclusions, and the recommendations. However, I would make it brief to just state some of the observations with regards to some of the submissions made. When the committee was given its mandate to investigate into this matter, the committee took serious effort to ensure that all the stakeholders that have something to do or something to explain with regard to this matter are all engaged, are all being heard. In fact, one of these stakeholders said for the first time they felt being heard because they have been treated like guilty as charged when no one listened to them. So they gave credit to the committee for listening to them for the first time. And then all the submissions that were received from stakeholders and even non-stakeholders with regards to position papers are all captured here. And the committee did justice in ensuring that all the views and expectations and observations that were expressed in those position papers are mirrored here. Of course, everything cannot be here, but the vital ones are all here. The extra information can be found in the appendix in the library maybe later. But then, the committee has no reason to exclude any vital information from this report. That means we don't have any ulterior motive to hide the truth from the public. Because that's our core mandate, to reveal the truth. And that's what we are charged to do. And that's what we are doing to the best of our ability. We have no reason to hide anything from anybody. So to say that we are favoring a ministry, I don't think is fair. To say that we have been economical, in other words, I don't think it's fair to the members of the committee. Because all the institutions that we have engaged, what they have said to us are all committed in this paper. Hadn't been that one is omitted, you can say we've left out. But as for the submissions of members of the House, no one said that we have not particularly engaged a particular institution that was vital that has to be engaged, but we failed to engage. No one, I'm happy that no one said so. Meaning, all the stakeholders that we are supposed to be engaged, we are engaged, and their submissions have been captured. So, possibly, to the expectations of some, we failed so to say, dismiss this one should resign, this one should do this. But I don't think that was primarily the object of the findings. To say who should go home, who should be jailed. I think there is a national crisis. We are looking for solutions, both short-term and long-term. Dismissal might be part of short-term, but is this going to solve long-term problems? So downgrading the whole issue to just dismissing somebody, asking somebody to resign, for me, I don't think that line is the appropriate line. Yes, somebody should take responsibility at some point. But even our report said the findings are yet to be concluded. The scientific part of it are yet to be concluded. And if you can see, all the conclusions are derived from the submissions that are given. And all the recommendations are informed by the gaps and shortcomings raised in the submissions with the stakeholders and experts. Specialists have been consulted. Because I think, even if you look at contents where the AKI is linked to the syrup, that alone is a big step. Various submissions in paragraphs in the reports have highlighted the gaps, serious gaps in the ministry. So how are we covering the ministry now? If you look at conclusion, paragraph 155, the select committee's engagement with the two conclusion 155, page 35. The select committee's engagement with 24 of stakeholders has generated fundamental adequacies in our entire health care delivery system. Fundamental, so it's underlined. Fundamental inadequacies. How do we now cover the ministry? We've said in the report, fundamental inadequacies in the healthcare delivery system. So the report highlighted that. Don't minimize this. This is important. The findings are addressed in the recommendation. So that means you will go to the recommendation, you find a certain recommendation is informed by these findings. Again, in paragraph 157, the findings reveals that all importers of pharmaceutical products and wholesale retail into the Gambia are following MCA regulations. Notwithstanding, they encounter difficulties within MCA operational shortcomings. So we are telling you here, there are operational shortcomings in the MCA. So we are not covering up anything. These are blatant, clear, that there are gaps. If you look at another paragraph, it's saying you the pharmaceutical council is faced with huge logistic and staffing constraints. And these are all mandated to do a certain job in this sector. And without without solving these logistics and staffing problems, they cannot execute their mandate as enshrined by the act that creates them. The conclusion also said the lack of quality laboratory in the country resulted in the delay of obtaining test results linking the substandard syrups to the AKI. So, had we had our own laboratory here, it took the ministry to wait for 2 weeks for the test labs that were sent in Senegal that never came. They had to be sent to Ghana. And in the interim, casualties are coming up. So if we had our lab at that time, swift action would have been taken, prompt tests would have been taken to ensure that they really know, because all that were being done were based on the observations of the doctors that were there. But to prove the case, they have to scientifically test it. And these tests took 2 weeks to come. So within that interim, there is a surge in the number of patients. But even the report is telling you now, according to the experts and specialists there, that when the drug, they seize the drug from laboratories, from pharmacies and the communities, they cease to see new cases. So that is attributing something. So for me, the report is comprehensive because of the fact that it has highlighted serious gaps in our healthcare delivery system. And it's not just enough to just try to find one scapegoat. Like somebody will say, we can have many scapegoats, or we can have many people culpable. Because even this institution cannot be an exception. Because I want to frown upon the submissions of MCA at one point to say, why were they comfortable with the lack of lab in this country for so long? They weren't. They have been putting it consistently in their submissions at the community level in the last legislature, in their activities that they need this lab. Without this, they cannot function properly. They have been doing that at Parliament, and it was confirmed. So, who allocate now resources to have these labs?
The Minister of Finance. Finance Ministry, we are
So, I'm speaking. Maybe you cannot observe me because I'm not asking you to answer. It's a literary question, huh? Yes. So not only I'm just giving you an open question so that we cease the blame game, because many a time we create institutions, we define them, draft good regulations, but we do not give the empowerment they deserve. We do not give them the necessary tools to work with. And who now gives that necessary tools? Somebody said, yes, the ministry never came here with a budget for that. That's fine. And that's true. The ministry never came with a budget. But that does not also stop National Assembly from reallocating funds for that. Even for the previous legislature. That really stopped National Assembly from reallocating resources for that. We've done that here. We've cut and do cuttings and reallocated. No, I don't need to clarify. Just allow me to go. I have little time. This is what I'm waiting for. I have little time. I have a patient at the heartbeat. Please. So to say, we've also highlighted that the lack of a pharmacovigilance center, which is a central pillar in all this, also affected. Also, it's a huge gap. And somebody wants to understand what is this. The act that established laboratory, the same act established this pharmacovigilance center. And this pharmacovigilance center should have an expert committee. This expert committee are people who are going to look at drugs only, when they have issues. And this pharmacovigilance center, they should do what they call post-market surveillance. And this post-market surveillance is inadequate as we are speaking now. The personnel is not there, the capacity is not there, nothing is there. It's just skeletal. So we, as a government, as a country, we should now look at how we work and revitalize all these institutions and make them powerful. The recommendation is saying that we make MCA autonomous by giving them powers that they do not need the approval of the minister. How are we now going back in the minister? We are removing some powers from the ministry and making recommendations saying make the MCA autonomous, powerful, so that they no interference. No interference. Let's read the whole of this thing together and not isolate issues. Let's read all of them together, because every recommendation that has been made has been informed by a critical issue raised in consultation with the stakeholders. Yes, somebody, now there are certain gaps also at the MCA that the report did not fail to highlight. That even though there is no lab here, they have been, they have committed themselves in conducting certain things, the registering and the listing. But they have found, the report has found that Innovax Global Consulting, their products are not listed with the MCA. Why that? And they have been existing since 2019. The report says that. We are not hiding anything. The report says that. The report also says the drugs that are imported by government are not listed with the MCA. And I think that one is a huge anomaly, and that has to be addressed. Because this agency must be empowered. Government, the Ministry of Health as an arm of government, must ensure they empower them. Even government bring medicines, it should be subjected to their list. They should have every drug that is coming here into this country. And that is a gap that is also cited in this. So how are we covering up anything here? Nothing is covered up here. So the other issue is this these entry points, customs, and other things. Because even during this pandemic, the MCA have recognized that some importers are now called, because normally no one should bring drug here without the submitting the paper to the MCA. But people are flouting this rule until we have crisis. If our customs and all this, they were at every container that comes here, they make sure they subject to the clearance of the MCA. But probably, not only this, many things could have been detected. Because we have a lot of counterfeit. Not only, we are looking at only made in products, but there could be a lot of counterfeit products in the market that are coming from not even recognized pharmaceutical industries. Counterfeit drugs. So it's important that institutions that have certain responsibilities, they recognize the functions of other institutions. Like immigration, customs, and that are in the port of entry, they should work hand in hand with MCA. Like our recommendation is saying, MCA should have a staff at every entry point. That is something we should look at critically. And the report, finally, where I will land is the report that my fellow NAM has said, the report from India, that they have tested products of made in pharmaceutical and have found it to be in compliance. There is no toxic. But what I find surprising, I have also seen that, but did the Indian government ask for the sample in the Gambia to be sent for them to test? Because we are testing from different samples. We are not saying the samples they have in India. The samples that arrive from India to us, that's what we have tested. And that is what we have found out. So they cannot test another sample in there and think that can correct the wrongs that these people have done previously. No. Because we are testing from different samples. If they have not asked for Gambian people, then let us see your sample. Bring where you have tested. We also do the same test. Then we can compare the results of the same test. But we've drawn our samples from different sources. Maybe their sample, they have rectified the problem. They have no toxic there. But they cannot say because they have not toxic there, what our authorities are saying is a lie. I go against that. Or it's contradictory. No, it doesn't contradict. Because we are testing from different samples. If they had asked for Gambian samples and tested that one and see different results, then we can say they are contradictory. But as far as we are concerned, the results of the lab tests that have been done stands until it is proven otherwise. So far, so good. Thank you very much. One last thing. The access to information has been highlighted, and this is important because the Parliament here enacted access to information. It's enacted. And then, just like I said, the committee did not leave any gap. All stakeholders, because the media is the fourth estate. They have been consulted. And even the local media and international media all attributed that to have access to information from the ministry, particularly of health in this case, was difficult. And it created panic and more fear. So civic engagement, citizens' engagement can also be done through the media. The quickest way is through the media. So as soon as things happen, the people of the country should be engaged through the media. And they have raised this concern, and that is why some misinformation have been peddled across the society, creating anxiety and other things. So this is something we can, not only for the Ministry of Health, but for all government departments, to work on this law, access to information law, to make sure that the government doors remains open. Whenever there is anything that the public need to know, they know it in time and they know it accurately. That's important to allay any fears. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Member for Talinding Kunjang. You have elucidated more on the report, and you have given the member for Sandu more weapon to include the National Assembly on the list of indicted institutions and government he have on his coffers. Yes, member for Willis.
That's why I was saying he needs your permission to read that newspaper, but you forgot that.
Thank you. Thank you. And I give the floor to the member for Banjul North.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Before I dwell into my deliberation proper, I would want to seize this opportunity to commend the August Assembly for giving the mandate to the Select Committee on Health to conduct such an important investigation, to come up with a very comprehensive report that is laid in front of us today. Honorable Speaker, I will also want to commend and also thank the members of the committee, the subject matter specialists, the committee clerks, the researcher, and also the relevant stakeholders that the committee were able to engage during the process, for their commitment and also giving us evidence to be able to come up with such a report at the end of the day. Honorable Speaker, if you look at the report, starting from the background, the objectives, going through the methodology, the activities, the conclusion, and the recommendation, you will come to realize that this is a clear manifestation that the team, that is the committee, was determined to do exactly what was tasked by them to be done at the end of the day. So in that regard, it is very important for me to share with you that it was not an easy job as a committee. Understanding that we have something very important to establish and also to prove. And that was to link the medicine with the death of the children that occurred in this country. And we were able to achieve that. With the investigations that we did, we come to realize that with the meetings that we had with the stakeholders, when the name syrups were recalled from the public, there were no more cases in this country as far as AKI is concerned. So meaning, it is clear that with common sense, that it is very clear that when it comes to linking the medicine with the death of the children, we were accurate as far as our report is concerned. But notwithstanding, it is also important for Parliament to understand that whatever we do here today as far as this report is concerned, the Parliament gave us the mandate to go and investigate and bring to them, for them to see what we have found as far as the report is concerned. But also for them, or for the Parliament, to come up with additional recommendation if they feel that it is also important on their side. Looking at the situation, it is not something that we expect us only, that is the committee, to do the investigation. According to us, we believe when it was tabled here as a motion during an extraordinary session, that we must make inquiries as far as this Aki case is concerned in this country. It was very important upon all of us to take it upon ourselves to do our various investigations so that we can come up with tangible recommendation. And that is what we came up with. But if members feel that we still need a room to improve or to strengthen the recommendation, indeed they are welcome. Because to me, I believe whatever we are doing right now as part of the debate is to talk about the report and to agree on something that at the end of the day will help the Gambian people to see a better healthcare system in this country, which is one of our aims when we started all these things. And I believe this is one of the fundamental things that we cannot do away from as a parliament. That this process will always help the Gambian people to come or to put in place a better healthcare system. So in that regards, I will just implore my fellow honorable members to support the committee on this report, to see to it that whatever recommendation they feel will strengthen the ones that we have already provided based on evidences that we had from stakeholders, they are surely welcome. But Honorable Speaker, I cannot conclude by giving a surface response to some of the things that were mentioned by some of the members. For clarity, that is, one of the members suggested the issue of a regulatory
Is the honorable member responding to questions, or is he?
Honorable member, please. What are you raising for?
Since he's a member of the committee, I'm not sure.
No, honorable member, are you raising a point of order? If not, please. Honorable member, continue.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. By the way, I am the Vice Chairperson of the Select Committee on Health, and I believe it is important for me to like I said, to give surface response to some of the things that are raised by members, which I believe it is also very important to help them to have, to widen their horizon in terms of understanding what we really went through. I had some members talking about the issue of the equipments that should be used for the testing, which I believe as part of the approved budget estimate, we were able to fight as a committee.
Yeah, can we hear the point of order, please?
Point of order 18, Mr. Speaker, is the honorable member is deviating because he's answering the question as a committee member, not acting on the report. Can he focus on the report and leave it to the chairperson to answer and then delegate if the need be when the time comes? Thank you.
Point of order rule out. Honorable member, can you proceed?
Cannot answer our questions, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, thank you once again, Honorable Speaker. I just want to inform this August Assembly that with the budget estimate that we have approved as the Assembly, as Parliament rather, we were able to allocate $10 million for MCA to start with to buy equipment for in-house testing as far as drugs are concerned in this country. There are concerns that are raised concerning stakeholders that we engage during the investigation. I would also want to make it clear, more particularly for the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Welfare. According to the inquiries that I made with the clerks of the Assembly, of our committee rather, we wrote to them and they never responded. That is for the information of the General Assembly. And I will agree with the member for Janjanbureh concerning the regulators should be banned from supervision, which is indeed very important, because you cannot be a player at the same time a referee, which is indeed very important. So in that regard, I believe it is important to share with you these important informations because we are all human, and I believe the chairman cannot capture everything that was said by members here. But notwithstanding, I submit, Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, member for Banjul North. I now give the floor to the member for Foni Bondari.
Thank you so very much, Honorable Speaker. I would like to thank all honorable members who have taken part in this or contribute in this matter. Honorable Speaker, I would like to ensure this August Assembly that we are all in this together. We did our findings based on what we have with the Assembly or the House have assigned us to do. Honorable Speaker, a lot have been said, but the most important thing here is we are looking for a solution. And the solution here is the emphasis should be on the government to take all it can or it needs to ensure a completion of the lab in the country, without which it will be very difficult for MCA to do their work without the lab. So the most important thing here, or as a solution for us not to encounter or the history to repeat itself, is for the country, sorry, is for the government to ensure that the lab is completed for us to be at a safer side. Because many speakers have mentioned, like, even on our food and then medical, we are not safe when they are not tested. Because nowadays, even the juices, you can see many issues that you cannot even understand. But if at all we have a lab, we will be at a safer side. We went round on all the medical stores and then pharmacies, but the importers and the pharmacies, they all feel what we are all going through, because these people are also Gambian like us, some of them. So they have a very big concern, and then they also raised the need for us to have a lab. So for the most important thing, the committee has did that recommendation for us to have a lab. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Speaker, this is my contribution. I better soon.
Thank you very much, Member for Fonyi Bonali. I now give the floor to the member for Nyamina East.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for availing me this opportunity to also talk about the report that is brought before the Assembly by the Health Committee. I also thank the Health Committee for this job well done. A lot has been said. Honorable Member for Kalindin Kunjang have spoken my mind, but notwithstanding, I am also part of the Health Committee. By looking at the report, if you go to objectives, for example, if you go to objective, that is page 8, the Select Committee, cognizant of the constitutional and parliamentary mandate by a resolution of Assembly initiated, a parliamentary inquiry into the matter of the AKI. The other part of my deliberation will be I want the Assembly to see this report as our report, not a report of the Select Committee of Health. That being said, we went on site visits, as alluded by the Honorable Member for Fonyi Bondali. We met some pharmacy owners. They also felt what we are also going through here. And one honorable member did also say that foreigners should not operate in this country. I think that is not a statement that should be made today, because some of these pharmacy owners employed Gambians. They employed Gambians. And their business is Gambians that are also benefiting in what they are doing in this country. I'll refer the Assembly to the recommendations. The Health Committee also recommend the Parliament, the government, to provide a laboratory, so which shows how committed the Health Committee is. If you also check paragraph 8, It also says that the MCA to ensure compliance by both the public and private sector to the regulation requirement of the Medicine and Related Production Act. So this will also tell you that we did not have any, like what others are instigating, that the committee is trying to, be on the side of others. That I think that is also a very serious accusation.
Honorable Speaker, point of order, please.
Please, Member for Janjamure, can we hear the point of order?
Point of order 29, content of speeches, paragraph 5, no member shall input improper motives of any order member. And what the honorable member is saying, I think the language used is not really honorable to say some of the members are instigating. I think that should be refrained, please. Thank you.
Honorable member, did you say that?
No, but that was also said by honorable member.
No, I'm asking you a question. You don't have to. Yeah, honorable member, please refrain from those kind of statements against members. We're in this floor. People have the right, as members of parliament, to make their opinion, and if you differ, to that extent, make your opinion, but not to use terms or adjectives that are unparliamentary. Thank you. Proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Noted. Honorable Speaker, as part of the Health Committee, we engage our stakeholders rigorously. And there is no way that we engage our stakeholders that we should also include in our report, in our recommendation, to ask someone to resign. Yes, let me refer to the Assembly to the Atlantic Pharmacy. Yes, Atlantic Pharmacy. Yeah. Atlantic Pharmacy. Page 36, I believe. 34, yeah. Yeah. Atlantic Pharmaceutical was established in 2019. They imported mainly from two manufacturers in India, made in pharmaceutical and Lexin Technology. We invited this Atlantic Pharmaceutical. We asked them when was their company established. It was established since in 2019. And since then, this was the only time that they come across with these contaminated drugs, that they have been dealing with this same pharmaceutical, this maiden pharmaceutical and Lexin Technology. So I would have loved to refute, not to rebound, to be precise, but to refute on what some of our honorable members alluded here. But notwithstanding, I'll also allow our chairman to respond to some of the allusion that made by honorable members. Thank you.
Thank you, member for Nyamina East. I now give the floor to the member for Brikama South.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. First, I definitely want to thank the Assembly for coming up with this decision, which is one of the greatest legacy we achieved. Like coming up on board to have a resolution where we call for an extraordinary session to look at matters affecting the life and livelihood of the government. And I still want to go further to especially thank people that really append for the resolution to call for this particular extraordinary session. And I believe moving forward, this would have been a pattern in which we will take any issue that is of public concern, and it is a serious outcry. Even when we are not in session, we can come out with a similar resolution to make sure that we reconvene to look into the matter to make sure that we attempt to address that particular issue. I really also want to thank the ABLE committee for really doing justice to what they are taxed for. It's not easy to satisfy everybody, but I know a degree of effort has been done. And much has been said, and interestingly, it's very unfortunate always to come last, but there are areas where I also want to flag, to lay emphasis on, particularly the recommendations. My number one recommendation will be, if this recommendation can be relooked at, to bring them in a form of resolution and put an attached time to them when they can be really resolved. Honorable Speaker, there is one issue that I really want to quote in page 11, paragraph 11, where the Select Committee was also informed by the MCA that they approve the import clearance permit to Atlantic Pharmacy, which contain the suspected for syrup. Namely, you have promethazine oral suspension, Cofex Malin, and the list goes on, up to 4 of them. I think this has given us an idea for us to understand that when you come to resolutions, particularly this other aspect, 159, that is talking about the Select Committee is convicted that Maiden Pharmaceutical Limited is culpable. And I believe this cannot go in the absence of Atlantic Pharmaceutical Company, which is responsible for the importation. There are 2 areas, because this is business and they are maximizing profit. There could be a conspiracy. Don't tell us that they've met all the criteria that is laid by. Even if we have weak legislation, but we also need to look at this thing. People that are into the investment and they are looking for profit, they can conspire to an extent that whereby almost the future leaders of this country